to switch gears a little bit and talk about hockey. It has been a pretty exciting game if you're a Bruins fan. It started off really strong for Florida. Kachuk almost just got another goal, by the way. They're on the power play with 33
Florida's
seconds.
on power play.
Um, and oh no, yeah, Florida's on the power play. Yeah, yeah. So they almost Kachuk just got a goal, and but Boston, after being down 1-0, quick comeback. 2 minutes later, tied it, and then a few minutes later scored again. And then I missed the third one watching the basketball game, but yeah, they find themselves up 3-1 here early in the third. Florida has been such a dominant team, and we were talking about how good they were, and then right after we said all that, Boston, scored, 3 goals in a row. We'll talk about this series just for 1 second, and then we'll talk about your series. But Ryan, what are your thoughts on these teams?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of already saying Florida seems to be the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. Not unlike last year. I mean, they went to the final last year, so um, they still kind of are. I feel like the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, Boston's playing a good game right now, and we'll see how the series unfolds. But if I was making a wagers, I would still be wagering on the Panthers to find a way to win the series. Um, yeah, I mean, Kachuk is always a dangerous player. Um, Bobrovsky is definitely has the ability to steal a game or two, even though maybe he's put together some great playoff performances, but not the most consistent. But obviously, always has the ability to make that incredible save. And yeah, they got a good team around him. So Boston, of course, has a bunch of veteran players, so it's not like Florida's gonna, run right over them or anything. Um, but yeah, that's just how I feel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree with you, Ryan, on that.
yeah. I think Florida is such. I mean, we were talking about it earlier that two of my co-hosts that I really admire their knowledge on hockey, both before the season even started, picked Florida to win it all this year, just because they thought that they had a great team last year, couldn't get it done in the end. But that a lot of those teams run it back. Like I think about the Mystics. They got to the finals and lost, but then ran it back the next year and won it all. And that happens in sports a lot, where these, teams get so close. They just need a couple little tweaks to the roster or whatever. You keep the same core together and they're able to get it done. I think about like the Boston versus Lakers series in the last decade in a similar way. And even to some extent, Vegas, they lost to the Capitals, but they've come back and made it to another final, and then they finally won it last year, and so all within a 5 or 6 year period. It makes a lot of sense. I think Florida's a sneaky team in the sense that they're not flashy, so people don't really talk about them as much as like maybe some of the other teams in the league. And also, I don't think that the marketing for Florida is great. Like, I don't
That
think that.
is, yeah, sorry,
Uh,
that is a big part.
yeah, and it's people want these big name, New York and all the other ones to do well, right? And so it's tough when you're Florida and you can't even sell out your own arena, but yet your team is one of the top teams in the league, right? So, um,
But
yeah,
Robbie, the thing that 2006 showed us is that you can never count anybody out
yeah, that's true.
I
because
mean, the
they said
Oilers,
we would never get anywhere that year, and we ended up winning it all.
yeah,
So
and
Yeah.
the Oilers, I mean, they were the eighth seed. They were like, they weren't expected. I mean, I think they beat the Red Wings in the first round that year,
But
and
think about the year that the Caps got to the Stanley Cup Finals the first time. They were a
yeah,
4 seed, and the top three seeds all lost, and so then they suddenly became the number one seed in the East, and so they kind of coasted to the finals, but then had to play a really tough, Detroit Red Wings team that was, the best team of the '90s. People could argue, and
oh yeah,
so like it's such a weird sport, right? Because you could do so well one round, and you can, yeah, the whole entire league can get flipped upside down, with certain teams losing in the first round that you don't expect, and then the next round it could be a completely different story, right? So like it's kind of wild in that regard.
and then the Leafs fall in May.
Mhm. It's true. Always. I feel like I felt so bad because I am a big Steve Dangle podcast fan. Like he was the
Yeah,
inspiration I did for wanting to start a podcast, right? So I've been
yeah,
following him for like over a decade. And I feel so bad for the guy because I watch every Leafs post game, even though I'm not really a Leafs fan, just because I find him so highly entertaining. And so, but like, I want to cry for the guy. He does live streams now during the games, and oh, I felt so bad, because he finally believed that they were going to do it. He really believed. And then they won the 2 games. They gave him that hope. And then overtime, boom, boom, right off the end boards in, just crushed. And you could see his face. And I'm like, 27,000 people just watched your face just drop. Like, I'm just,
yeah.
oh, I was like, I don't know. Like, this is why I don't live stream Cavs games. I don't think I want that. Like, yeah, but I don't know. It's heartbreaking. Like, and I know I'm happy for Carly, who's a Boston fan, but like, it's just oof. Those Leafs fans, it's brutal for them for sure. But
Well, we
anyway,
got we got we got two big players, Anderson and Slavin, both are up for those big awards, finalists in those
mhm.
prestigious awards. So I'm pretty proud of them for that.
Yeah, no, the Canes have done really well. Let's talk about them. Like, so in the first round, they had to play the Islanders, and they pretty much took care of them. They had trouble in one game, but overall, I thought they played a really solid series. I have to say that they were, my second team I've been rooting for just because I like Orlov and Kuznetsov, and I'm, wishing them well. And I'm paying for half of Kuzi's salary as it is, so we may as well root for him. So like, uh, the I love that slow shootout move. It's something that's just patented, uh, usually does it in the shootout. He did it in this one in a penalty shot, but um, it's incredible how it works almost every time. And, you got a lot of momentum from that goal, obviously. And so I'll start off with you, Ryan. What were your thoughts on that series with the Islanders?
Yeah, Islanders are another kind of, I don't know if I should make this comparison. They're, I guess, maybe a less successful, kind of built a little bit like Boston. I mean, they have a few skilled guys, uh, but ultimately it's just kind of they're gonna kind of muck it up and try to just get the greasy playoff goals for the most part, and try to get the other teams off their game. Um, and So there was definitely a bit of that. It wasn't like always easy for the Hurricanes to score, and then all of a sudden they would break through. There would be those breakdowns. Where there were two different times in the series where they would score, 2 goals in like 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds apart from each other, and those were kind of really what uh, got the series for the Hurricanes. It's like even when there were times where the Islanders were playing better, but they didn't get the result that they wanted. As far as just putting it in the net, and that's
Yeah, I
ultimately
never
what the
felt like
game is about.
the series was in doubt. I really just felt like Carolina was just a much better team. And they have been the whole season, I think, in a lot of ways. The Islanders over the last part of the season kind of, got some wins and crept into the playoffs and, and got there. But I don't know. I never really felt like the Islanders were that much of a threat, if that makes sense. I just don't think that they're a lot like the Capitals in the fact that they were just, overmatched in this series. But Eddie, what were some of your thoughts on that series?
Exactly what Ryan said. I mean, I think, that it was one of those series where we gutted it out and just did better than they did in 4 games and not so good in one game. So, uh, but it's one of those things where I think that, that's the thing I love about hockey. Number one is, we bought season tickets right after they moved to Raleigh.
Hmm.
And I can remember in the beginning, there would be at at all, just about all the games, there would be more fans from the other team there than there would be ours, because everybody that had moved down south from the north came in with their jerseys, and it was like a huge rivalry, because they would have all these people at the games, and they would score a goal and they would be just as loud as we were. Well, it didn't take but a couple of years to get over that, and we had a lot more fans then, but it's amazing how we would have people that sat around us that would wear Carolina jerseys team. They would wear our jersey until their team was playing, and then you would see them sitting 2 rows back with the Islanders or Washington jerseys on. So it was pretty funny back then to watch our team progress through the years. But I think we've got a good shot this year. I really do. I think we've got a good shot to go a long ways in this, and I'm hoping that we can hold it together. Not, we've in previous years we got plagued with injuries a lot too, and
Yeah.
I hope that we can stay clean this year as well. So
That's plagued us over the years too. Like the one year we were able to stay healthy was obviously the year that we won the cup, but we've always had some of that too. That's part of hockey and football,
oh yeah,
the attrition factor. I'm going to bring in my good friend Gil, who usually does our Caps podcast with us, and we're going to break down this Rangers series.
Boston just scored again.
Oh yeah, they did. I missed that one. But Gil, did you see did anyone see who scored in it?
Guy by the name of Justin Brazeau. I've honestly have never heard of the guy, but he's part of this emerging third line of Boston that is suddenly starting to play well. I don't know personally that they can sustain it. Florida looks very mortal this game. I think it's a little rink rust. I don't know if the way this game is played out is going to last over this series, but Boston's looking very well. So that's my assessment of it.
Yeah, I kind of agree. And so let's talk about the next opponent. Since Gil and I, we got to watch 4 games in a row of them beating us, the Rangers, and you guys have now got the 5th game in a row. And so the Rangers are a very, very tough team, as you can now see. I'll start off with you, Ryan. What were your thoughts on game 1 there?
Hurricanes power play just wasn't cutting it. Just wasn't very good. I mean, and that of course also means that the Rangers penalty kill was pretty good, very good. So there has to be some answer for that if the Hurricanes are going to come back. I really think the rest was fairly even. So, or maybe even possibly slightly in 5-on-5 play, but they're in Carolina's favor, but there wasn't a lot of 5-on-5 play. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the first game.
Yeah, so their penalty kill made our power play also look very terrible. Gil, do you think that it was more of what we saw earlier?
I'm gonna. I'll just say this. I think the Rangers will do everything in their power, legally and illegally, over the table and under the table, to try and make this about special teams as much as they possibly can, because to me, that is the only way they will win this series.
Right.
I'm going to be 100% blunt on that and stand by that. That will be what they do.
And Gil speaks to a good point, because that's how they beat us. 5-on-5, we were actually pretty even with them. If you look at the stats in it, surprisingly so to some people's opinion. But when it came to penalty kill, their power play is lethal. And then the reverse is true, where they just stifling defense, and then when they're up, they have some really great different systems that they put into effect where they really change how they play, but they do well with that. Some teams play back on their heels and then that falters for them, but they actually know how to run a trap system that actually is really hard, that clogs it up. And so once you're down in that, in the game, it's really hard to come back against them. And so you really have to make sure that you stay out of the box and that you don't get down by more than one goal, because it's just really difficult at that point. Eddie, what are some of your thoughts?
Well, the only game I got to watch was the one we lost. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I ain't got a lot to say about that. So I missed the other one. So
Hmm. Yeah. Well, so you missed the first round series, is that what you're saying? But you saw the Rangers one?
no, the first series is the only one that the only game that I got to see was the one where we lost in the
Oh,
first
that
series.
Islanders game. So you didn't get to even see this Rangers game.
No,
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I guess you thought that you were bad luck, but then you still need to watch, clearly. Yeah. Yeah. Important to get back in there. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting series, for sure. I do want to talk about a couple of the other matchups on the West Coast side for just a second, and then we can go back and talk about whatever you guys want to talk about as well. And then we're also going to bring in, I'm going to actually bring her in right now, C4, to talk about the West Coast as well. And then she's going to talk about the Hershey Bears update, because she got to go to one of the games, and they're the defending minor league champions, and there she is, the Calder Cup champs. There you go. They've won the most Calder Cups of any team, and a lot of our players have. Oh, I like Gil brought up.
Sorry.
I like it.
What? I missed it.
He had a thing of Hershey's chocolate. So
Ah,
yeah.
there we go.
And it's exciting because a lot of our players we got to send down. So a lot of them we got to have some playoff experience here. We got a first round bye, so they didn't have to play in that week. And then they went down to this minor league team, and 7 players can continue to develop a little bit further down there. So we'll get into the Bears talk at the very end of the segment as well. But welcome on in, Cheryl Ann. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Long day on Saturday, but I think I finally recovered.
Nice. Yeah, she also went to the United game.
Yes, my first ever MLS soccer game. So yeah,
So she will be my great segue.
so
when
I'll be switching hats
soccer
later.
at the end nice. I like it. I like talk soccer after this in the 11 o'clock hour. So we've got a big game one tomorrow between the Avalanche and the Stars. And I'm so thankful that the Stars were able to vanquish the Golden Knights, because I've seen enough of them. And so I was pulling for the Stars in that one. And the Avalanche, who everyone thought was going to be incredible, and then they kind of stumbled a little bit to get to their seeding, but now they're kind of showing why people thought they were incredible to begin with, right? So that's a really interesting matchup. So I'm going to start off with Ryan. Ryan, what are your thoughts on the Avalanche versus the Stars?
Well, I think most of the NHL fans are grateful that the Stars found a way to advance. Getting a little tired of the cap circumvention hijinks that the Vegas Golden Knights have been doing. It is allowed, it is legal, but also like, come on, this
Well,
is so dishonest.
well, they weren't the
Um,
first to do it. Didn't
no,
Tampa
they
do it
weren't.
with Stamkos a couple years ago?
Yep, nope. And I was mad at Tampa Bay then too. So
there we go.
And with
Oh,
Kucherov too. I
this
think.
is Kucherov.
Yeah.
This is
but
Jazz, by the way, who's trying to make an
oh.
appearance.
Yeah.
We had all the animals, so I got the dog.
So yeah, so anyway, this is gonna be a fun series to watch. I mean, everybody knows about the amazing skill of the Avalanche, the amazing talent they've got with McKinnon and Bakar and all those guys, and then of course we get to see Jake in goal for Dallas in the second round, and I think he's been getting, of course, he's been getting his flowers, but I still put him in that upper tier of top 10 goalies in the league. So I think I do think Colorado is gonna prove again why they had so much hype at the beginning of the season, and they're gonna find a way to come out on top. But I have a lot of respect for Dallas as well. So if I have to pick, I'm picking Colorado, but it's gonna be a fun series. It's gonna be a fun series.
You think it'll be a long series?
I do think so. I don't see Colorado really putting up huge goal numbers like they did in the first round. I think Dallas is too consistent for to be as leaky, as skilled as Colorado is. I mean, that's not to say there couldn't be a big goal game, but I think it's going to be a lot closer in terms of the actual goals scored. I mean, Winnipeg kind of came undone there with Connor Hellebuck. That was kind of unfortunate to see. But yeah, so I don't think it's going to be the same way in this round, but we'll find out.
Yeah. Eddie, do you have any thoughts on the Avalanche and Stars?
Yeah, here's my prediction is I think that it's going to be in the finals. If we can get past New York in this round, I think it's going to be the Hurricanes and the Avalanche in the finals.
Interesting. It'd be a rematch of the Eastern Conference final, right, from last year, because didn't Carolina play Florida for that? So
potentially, I mean, hey, Boston's up 1-0 in the series, so we might not want to count that too.
Right. I know I kind of had Florida going all the way, but the way they're playing right now,
yeah.
I don't know.
it's not looking good.
Game. I really thought Florida was gonna, especially when they scored first. I mean, I don't know. I didn't expect this for sure. Gil, what are some of your thoughts?
Well, this one we're watching Florida. Don't expect that to be the norm. I think Florida will turn it around and start to make it more of a series. I'm seeing signs of rink rust from Florida. Boston's in sync, but once they get this game under them, they'll be fine. The Avalanche series, I see that going at least 6 games. Ultimately, though, I think the Avalanche's shooters are going to be too much, even for Jake Ottinger, who tends to get hot in the playoffs. I mean, I'm a little surprised that Dallas got past Vegas because they've got some great players, but they've also got some guys that tend to disappear. So I don't know. I don't see them outlasting at the Avalanche. I really don't.
I think the most
as far as that goes,
the Stars was their defense, because their defense was so good in that series. Their goaltending, that's really was the difference maker in that one. Because I was kind of surprised too, because Vegas has a lot of scoring. C4, what is your thoughts on the this series here between the Avalanche and the Stars?
I'm kind of along with everybody else. I see Colorado pulling it out. I think it'll go at least 5. I don't think Colorado will sleep Dallas. Dallas will find a way to win at least one game. But Colorado is getting hot. They're getting healthy, and they've played really strong. I mean, people were saying Winnipeg was going to sweep, and Colorado's like, no, not today. So I'm sorry, I don't know the other 2 gentlemen, the Carolina guys, but hi. Ryan and Eddie. But like Eddie was saying, assuming Florida doesn't get their act together, I do see the final very well could be Carolina, Colorado. So,
Yeah.
but I kind of had Florida. You're welcome. But
funny because last week we did a
pulling...
podcast with the New Yorker, so it's just kind of funny that we're having like it's like we're fair and balanced. We're now showing. So yeah, and then speaking of the Carolina versus Rangers, so game 2 is going to be tomorrow. It's going to be a 7:00 game. Eddie, are you going to be able to watch that one?
Yes, I will be.
Yeah. All right. So what do we think is going to happen? I mean, this is game 2 in New York, but obviously if Carolina wants to win the series, stealing this one would be a huge feather in their cap towards, coming back, tied 1-1 versus down 0-2, because then the pressure is really on But I'll start off with you, Ryan. What are your thoughts on game two?
Maybe there's a lineup change or two for the Hurricanes. Maybe Lemieux makes his postseason debut. Um, somebody who can afford to trade penalties with the Rangers. Because, like
Yeah.
Gil said, that's gonna be happening. Ugh, I hate the way that they play so much. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, as you all saw in the last round, so
Yeah. And I was at that game 4. So
Ugh.
yeah, that was
Ugh.
brutal. And we were surrounded. Well, fortunately the Rangers fans around us were actually pretty cool. And
Yeah.
they actually knew the game and they respected what we had done. Of course they were cheering for their team and they were doing the whole all their chanting and everything, but but they were but I mean it was me and my friend Marcus, and then about Rangers on that side, Rangers on that side, and there were like 3 Caps fans in front of us, and then Rangers the rest of almost the entire section where we were. There was like 4 of us, and then everybody else was Rangers.
That's crazy. It was funny because you were telling us the story last week about how Rempe was fans of Rempe were in front of
Mhm.
you, and
Yeah,
they knew that their guy was an asshole. Like,
yeah.
so,
He said, I was like, why? He's like, I know he's a bloomin' asshole, but he's our bloomin' asshole. And I'm
yeah,
like, okay, so it's like Marchand. He's a bloomin' asshole, but he's their bloomin' asshole. So I get
Yeah.
it. He's not. So I get it. I get it. But
Eddie.
at least Marchand can play hockey
Yes, that's true. When he's not licking
when he's
people.
not kicking faces. Yes.
The so Eddie, what are your thoughts on game two here between the Hurricanes and the Rangers?
Well, they're saying that Brett may be able to get back. They say he's up and walking around and doing better. So Pesci might be able to get back in and play, which will really help us if he
Yeah.
does. Um, and D'Angelo, I think he's good to play too. He got that big slash the other night,
Yeah.
and he was out for the end of the game. So um, I mean, here's what I think is going to happen this round is I think we're going to win tomorrow night. I think we're going to win the 2 at home, and then it'll come back game 7. I think it's going to go 7 games,
Hmm.
Hmm.
and I think it'll come back to us, and we'll win it at home.
Well, wait, no, New York would get the game 7. So you'd have to win it in 6 if you want to
Yeah,
win it.
6, and then we'll win
Yeah,
it at game. Yeah,
you win it in 6. Yeah, lose 5, but win game 6. Yeah, that makes
yeah.
sense. It's kind of that's usually the recipe for success. It was kind of weird that the Caps won on the road, all of theirs, but usually that's how you kind of want to do it, is steal a home game from the other team and then get to win it in that game 6. So if you're the underdog, but Gil, what are some of your thoughts on this series?
Well, again, if the Hurricanes can stay out of the box, they have it over the Rangers 5-on-5. They have the superior mobility, tight checking game.
Yeah.
The Rangers are no match. They just can't. They will not be able to compete, I don't think. But again, the game is probably going to fall into the hands of the referees, and if that does, then that equalizes it for the Rangers, and look for them to try to do that. But I think it's going to be a back and forth series. It's going to go at least 6 games, I think.
Hmm.
But ultimately, I think the the Hurricanes structure will win out over what it is that the Rangers throw out there. They're just far too inconsistent for my liking. And again, the Hurricanes have a lot more structure to their game. And over a series, that type of mentality, that type of play tends to win out. If you know what you're doing, you know what you're going to throw out there instead of depending upon some guy to go out there and hit somebody and get a penalty, and then you get a man advantage or you stifle their power play and try to swing the momentum that way. If you're too reliant on that, it's going to hurt you in the end.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. I was gonna change up these graphics for a second so I can. I'm marking time codes with graphics. Anyway, so last matchup that we haven't talked about yet is the Oilers and Canucks. So at least one Canadian team is guaranteed to get into the Western Final. I'm sure that a lot of Canadian fans kind of wish that it was spread out, so kind of a Canadian finals, but they're not going to get that this year. This is an interesting matchup between the Oilers and Canucks. I thought if the Canucks could get out of the first round, they could be a dangerous team. The Oilers are always, dangerous. They've got a lot of firepower. But I don't really know how this series is going to go. But I'm going to start with Gil. What is your initial take on the series?
This will probably be the most interesting series to watch. I don't think anybody really knows how it's going to go. It's going to be you got the Oilers and their all that they have on their end. Draisaitl, of course, and Connor McDavid. Don't forget about Zach Hyman.
Yeah, I was gonna say Hyman's been doing well.
He's the way he plays is 100% built for the playoffs. And then you've got the Canucks, who I don't want to say they came out of nowhere, but you saw what they did last year, and you didn't think they were going to be a playoff team, much less, just about win the whole West. But the way they're playing, I don't know. They don't scare me offensively, so that's going to be the only way they can compete is if somehow they're able to shut down that high-powered offense and keep up with them. I don't see it happening, but then again, it could happen. It's the playoffs. So Rick Tocchet has them believing in themselves, has them playing like a team who really wants it. And they've already survived injuries to goalies. Their top goalie, their backup goalie, now they're down to a third string goalie. If you can survive that, then I guess you can go far. I just don't see it.
Yeah, it's wild. Davey made a good point in chat. The Timberwolves are up 42-26 here in the second quarter. So it's just wild because the Nuggets are thought to be this best team, and the Timberwolves took the first game, and now they're kind of dominating this first, quarter and almost first half here. Interesting to see if they end up going back to Minnesota up 2-0 here. So we'll be monitoring that in the next hour as well. And Ryan says Anthony Edwards is the GOAT. If he was working for ESPN, geez, the hype is going to be insane. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty incredible for sure. Florida went empty net with 4 minutes left in this game, down 3 goals, which I guess makes sense,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I just feel like
Yeah, they
Kinda-
just nailed an empty netter.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
5-1.
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of a foregone conclusion. I just don't know how you keep it out of your empty net for 4 minutes.
Everybody's leaving.
Yeah.
They are.
Everybody's
They're
leaving.
gone.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Beating the
Lots of
traffic.
empty seats. Yeah.
Yeah, that was DeBrusque got that. Marchand on the assist.
Oh,
Yeah.
yep.
So
There we go.
It broke a stick there, with the shot block, and set him up going back the other way. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah, that's a big win for Boston because they just really needed to steal one of these two, and it would set them up for a lot of success because they play pretty well in Boston. So I think this could ultimately be a really big win for them in this series. But yeah, it's gonna be tough to figure out this Vancouver one. Ryan, do you have any thoughts on the Vancouver versus the Oilers?
Well, we have to remember something that happened with the Oilers. They were in the basement of the NHL standings I know this is the playoffs, it's a new season, but sometimes when a team swings and makes that much of a turnaround, there's just this unshakable belief in your team. And I think that's what the Oilers have right now. I just think they're playing super confident. And I think they're going to come out on top against Vancouver. And if I had to pick, I think they're going to be the team in the Stanley Cup Finals from the Western Conference. I just see it. I just see them putting it together this year, because of the way that they came back in the regular season. And again, sometimes that just it makes the difference in those really close and ugly games. If you've just got a team that is unshakable, and I haven't seen them flinch. I didn't see them flinch at all against the Kings. Yeah, we'll see what happens in the series. I'm not saying they're gonna win in 5. I think it's gonna be the Oilers in 6. Yeah.
It was wild because they lost one of those first 2 games, to LA, in Edmonton. And I was like, uh-oh, they lost the
Mhm.
second game. And I was like, oh, I was a little worried there, but then they took care of business going to LA and winning that next game 6-1.
Yeah.
Pretty remarkable.
Yeah, that was
And then
crazy.
Something about this year's playoffs, game 1 has hardly been indicative of how the series is going to go
yeah,
For
for most of these series.
yeah, unless you're the Caps and you get swept. But they
Well, no, even in that series, they didn't play very well. They came out flat, but they played the Rangers tough the
We
other
did.
3 games, even though they lost. So
Yeah.
even there,
And even then, if you look at the score sheet, it was their special teams that killed us. If their special
Right.
teams don't score, those games are a hell of a lot closer.
oh yeah, for sure.
So
That's why I'm like, please don't muck it up with them because that's what they want. Like, I just like it's gonna be
and
a
I think
little.
they're gonna do their best to have Carolina fall into the same trap. So
Oh yeah, I mean that blueprint worked so well.
but Carolina is far better equipped than we were to face that team. With the new coach and the young guy. We weren't even supposed to be there. So, I mean, the fact that we were even there was enough. But
Yeah.
but I think Carolina is much better equipped to deal with this Rangers team, and I think in the end they'll pull it out. But I think you're right, Eddie. It'll probably go at least 6.
Yeah.
Um,
C4, what are your thoughts on the Oilers Canucks series?
I'm kind of thinking Edmonton. I mean, just like Gil said, the way they've been playing and the way Ryan was saying, they've got that push going right now. I don't know if they'll get to the finals or not. I'm still kind of pulling for Colorado there, but I think the Oilers are. I think it's going to be the Oilers in probably 5 or 6. Vancouver's fighting. I mean, they were at the top of the West for so long. I think they ended up 3rd in the West. So, but like you said, they've got that momentum going. So
Yeah.
if they can keep it going, I think they've got a shot of making at least. They'll make it to the next round for sure.
I realized I didn't talk about Vancouver, and I was just gonna say real quick is that this is their return to the playoffs. And it's just really hard for a team that hasn't been there recently to go all the way. It's usually teams fail first before they ultimately cross the threshold and win. It's very rare that you see a team that hasn't been in the playoffs come in and just all of a sudden, get all the way or make a deep run. It happens, but not all that often. So yeah, it's another reason why I have more confidence, I think, in the Oilers too.
Yeah, you look up and down Vancouver's roster. There's really nobody there out, even if you count Quinn Hughes, that scares anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have to be reliant on a team game to beat, 3 superstars essentially. And if the Oilers' defense becomes really leaky again, which it can be, then they've got a shot, but I just don't see it happening.
So Davey is having an interesting conversation with me on the sidebar here. He was talking about how he's not Scott, but he does think that we're not giving the Rangers enough credit. The team is pretty deep and they have some good goaltending, and he thinks that the panel is making them out to be cheap shot artists, which they are at times. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One word, Rumpy.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you literally use them for 4 minutes a game.
And for the love of God, put somebody on Zibanejad.
Yeah.
I tell you what.
Well, he doesn't scare me either.
No,
he only scores on the power play.
Right.
If you think about it.
Unless it's
Right.
against the Capitals when he scores 5 goals, but
Well, yeah, there you go.
but
Actually, I like to watch Zibanejad on the power play just because he's so sneaky. But but yeah, when you're on the power play,
Yeah.
for the love of God, somebody on Zibanejad.
about
Yeah,
power
no.
play, Boston's on the power play to end this game, which does not help Florida's cause for
No.
It doesn't make sense. Actually, in the playoffs, you got to figure at some point it doesn't make sense to have a power play when there's, a minute and a half left in the game. Does it really make sense to have a power play?
Why not? I mean, just it solidifies an impossible comeback, I guess. So
I I guess I don't know, but
Minnesota is up 50-30 in their game.
oh
There's
my
about 4
gosh,
minutes left in the first half there. So that game is pretty wild.
well, it's quiet downstairs, so Marcus probably isn't watching it. So shh.
Yeah. Okay. Eddie, any final thoughts on the Oilers Connect series?
I know nothing about either one of them, but I really like the name Canucks.
There he is.
Being a songwriter, I could have all sorts of rhymes with Canucks.
Oh, I'll bet you could. I don't doubt it.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that Ace Caltor, my friend Adrian's a big Oilers fan. He's in chat. And so I'm definitely gonna pull for them on the West Coast for sure. And I think I don't know who I'm pulling for in the other series. I mean, I think it's an interesting story, the Avalanche and the Stars. I'm just so happy that the Stars beat Vegas that I almost want to root for them just on that alone. But yeah, I don't really care too much either way. I like the idea of the Stars getting it together and at least playing a good series. And I know that there's some Twitch people that I know called Moonlight Social, and he's a diehard Stars fan, and so he's also a Preds fan, which is interesting. But to be fair, he did start in Texas and then moved to Nashville. But
Yeah.
but it's interesting because they are kind of rivals. It's kind of like my dad, who seems to root for every team in a division, which I always yell at him for, being like, you can't do that. You can't root for the Commanders. He does that, for every team but Dallas, in our division in football. And he's like, well, I've lived in all three. He's a New Yorker who moved to college in Philly, who then moved here, which I get that, but I don't know, it's ridiculous to me. But yeah, but I feel bad that his Predators lost, so I'll root for his Stars for him, just because I think it'd be an interesting story. But I know C4 is partial to the Avalanche, but it should be an interesting series for sure. I know that our time is winding up. I know that Eddie is usually in bed by now, so
Yes.
I appreciate you guys for staying up late. You can blame your nephew for this, and but I am happy that we get to talk hockey in the second hour, a rarity on this podcast. But I'll let Ryan and Eddie give their final thoughts, and then we'll talk a little bit of. Oh, Eddie, thank you for the resub. I really appreciate that. And Selcan said there's nothing wrong with rooting against the Cowboys. Yeah, it's kind of the motto of the podcast. Yeah, people didn't know I was born during a Cowboys Redskins game. They were the Redskins back then. And at halftime, we were down, and I always said that the world just needed one more Cowboys hater, and the Cowboys ended up losing that game. So, it's my blood to hate that team. So, which is funny because my wife's family is all from Texas. So I wear all Commanders gear whenever I go down there, which I get lots of fun looks. So anyway, but I'll let Ryan and Eddie say their final goodbyes and their final thoughts on their Hurricanes. I'm actually start with Eddie, and then I'll let him go, and then I'll get Ryan's thoughts after that. But Eddie, any final takeaways from the playoffs or anything else you want to talk about tonight before we let you go?
Well, one thing we didn't talk about is that we've just signed. Oh God, who did we just sign? The lower team.
Oh, the Wolves.
The Wolves, yeah. So
So
just,
the Hurricanes have an AHL affiliate now.
yeah, we just
cool.
affiliated with.
Oh, yay.
So who Who were they with before? Did they just
Nobody.
Yeah.
so they had no minor league team? So how do you like? What do you? How does that work? Like, I just don't
We stole
It's-
people. We
Yeah,
stole
it's
people.
just like
Yeah,
you
pretty
just
much.
throw players around to whatever roster will take them. It's pretty wild. Yeah, it was not good.
That's wild.
And a lot more players were ended up playing overseas instead of in the NHL. Like they would just play with, whoever. Yeah, it was.
Russia.
Yeah,
Sorry, somebody's had like one of the minor league teams that have played like the longest. Like it's such a weird concept for me because we even have like a minor league team to them. Like it's just like we have a whole farm system. That's wild.
Yeah.
The Carolina Stingrays.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
it's-
they're the farm team for the Bears, or the farm team for the Caps. So,
yeah. So I think it's the Jackrabbits or the Everblades. One of
Wait.
those two.
Not to interrupt you, Ryan, but they do have an ECHL agreement. They're like the double A
Right.
level, and it was the Everblades for a while.
Right.
Then briefly it was a team in Greensboro of all places, the Generals. Then it was back to the Everblades, and then Greenville again. They got a new team, and then for the last few years, it's actually been the Norfolk Admirals.
Oh, right. Yep.
Oh, and
That's
that
what I
used
was
to be one of
forgetting.
our affiliates.
And that used to be, a long time
Mhm.
ago. They used to be, they used to be an AHL team, for one thing, and they did
right.
once upon a time were the affiliate of the Caps. So
Yeah, that's
stranger things.
yeah, exactly. We're giving
Robbie, I do have to.
Yeah.
Robbie, I do have to go, but I just wanted to say once again, congratulations on the 3 years, and thank you for having me in.
yes,
I'm
I
not,
appreciate you for staying up so late for us.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm not nearly as adept at hockey as my nephew is, and he's also my godson. So,
it's true.
but thank you for having me in, and
Yes.
thank
When,
you guys.
before Eddie, before you leave, when's your next stream?
My next stream will be Wednesday at 6:30 p.m.
There you
Eastern.
go. So Eddie Brown Music, if you're listening to the audio podcast or over on Facebook. So it's twitch.tv/Eddie Brown Music. And yeah, you can catch him on Twitch, and he's a great guitarist, and he is the uncle of Ryan, who is also a great musician here on Twitch as well. So I appreciate Eddie for staying up so late with us and for rating into us as well. So it's been a lot of fun.
I even played Robbie an Eminem song tonight.
It's true. He did it. Very impressed by. It was a cool mashup. So if anyone wants to check that out, they'll have to request that on his next stream for sure.
All right, buddy. We'll see y'all.
All
Enjoy
right,
it.
nice to meet you.
Alrighty, good to
Nice
see
to
you.
meet you. Good night.
Yeah. All right. With that, Ryan, I'll let you say your goodbyes because I'm sure you don't have a lot of thoughts on the Hershey Bears. And any final takeaways, and also let us know when your next stream is as well.
Well, yeah, just thanks. I'll echo what Eddie said. I mean, thanks for having me on, and congrats on the 3 years. It's been so much fun being in this space with you, and you graciously had me on a few times, even though we almost never root for the same teams.
It's pretty amazing that we always have rival teams, but that makes
But
it more fun. You know.
I do have this is actually a Justin Williams
Oh, there you go.
sweater. So
Mr. Game
a
7
former
for
Capital
Mr.
as
Game-
well.
Yeah, Mr. Game 7, but not for us.
Right. Yeah.
Everywhere else he went, he was really Mr. Game 7. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, no, it was super fun and super nice. I don't know, C4, I don't think we've been on a stream together before, but
No.
it was nice to chat with you. And Gil,
As well.
always it's fun. Yeah, I know I've been on a broadcast with you before. And yeah, I am interested to see. I'm definitely a fan that'll just like keep engaged with like. It took a while. When I was a kid growing up, I would not like if the Hurricanes were done, I was upset and I just couldn't watch. But then, especially once I was getting hockey starved because the Hurricanes had a terrible stretch. the forever no playoff streak that thankfully ended, and I started watching the playoffs then, and so it's always like it doesn't matter. There's just higher drama, it seems like, in the Stanley Cup playoffs than there is in any other sport. And that trophy is just, you just got to see that trophy. It's the greatest trophy in all of sports, in my opinion. So
If anyone wants to see it, they can check my screen icon actually on my.
there you go. Yep.
So it's the coolest moment, in sports fandom that I've ever gotten to do, is got to hold that cup while Zach was in utero, so
Wow.
it's a cool moment for sure. I have it actually hanging up in this room, but it's such a special thing. It's the hardest trophy, I agree, in sports to win, and because each round is so brutal. And that and March Madness, which we've gotten to do both streams, I think are two of the greatest like playoff, scenarios. I think there's always such exciting drama in both sports.
True. Yeah, those would be my top two for kind of the drama. Would be the
Yeah.
Stanley Cup playoffs and the March Madness.
Yeah. So it was a good year for you guys at NC State. So I'm happy that
Yeah. Insane.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Ryan, thank you again. I have always enjoyed modding you. Are you doing your working Wednesday this week?
Yeah, so that'll be the next stream, and so I typically will do a little bit of like kind of practicing, and it's a little bit more lurky at first, and then I typically will open it up to requests after a tiny bit. I've been inspired to learn some more Billy Joel tunes recently, so I've been kind of working on those and might be practicing those again to start up the stream, which will be really
Right.
fun.
It was fun.
Nice.
Andy, Primordial Sounds, and Ryan were both on at the same time, and it was cool that we got to do a little bit of a ghost collab. And I saw that it was just funny that on both streams the same song came up, and I was like, oh, I got to tell Andy, and
Oh,
he
right.
texted Ryan, and he got to play over it, and so it was a cool thing. So on both of the Discords for Ryan or Andy, you can go check out the ghost collab, and so that was super fun. And I enjoy modding for both of you guys. So thank you guys for both of the support for these past 3 years as well. And Ryan, you have an open invitation here throughout the rest of the playoffs. If there's ever a Monday where there's no hockey, I think next Monday there is a hockey game. But in a future one, I'm always happy to have you back on to talk about the Hurricanes and hockey and overall. So
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, have a great evening, everybody, and thanks again.
yeah, definitely.
Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Good luck.
Bye.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
luck.
Yes,
Yeah, I definitely hope that you guys are able to pull it off against the Rangers for
absolutely.
all right, let's talk a little bit of Hershey Bears for a second. C4 got to go to the game one that
Yes.
is. They were able to win the first two games, but C4 let people know how the game you went to went.
It was amazing. We had great seats. We were on the side where they defend twice,
Mhm.
but we were only about, I don't know, 10 rows up from the ice or something. But 10 rows up from the ice in Hershey is a lot different than 10 rows up from the ice in Cap, because it's a much more intimate venue.
Mhm.
There was about 8,500 people there that night.
Yeah,
Game
which is
two, there were
incredible
well
for
over
like
10.
yeah,
Game two, there were like 10,000 and change.
they said it's the highest attended like second round game that they've ever had. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, well, it was a Wednesday night, so, it wasn't, but it was the crowd was just into it. It was loud all night. The vuvuzelas, yes, I have one. Yes, I was blowing my vuvuzela. They were handing out cowbells that night too.
Oh,
And I
nice.
don't know, hold on, let me go grab mine. Yeah, and every once in a while they would play that, I have a fever and the only prescription is more cowbell.
You always got to have more cowbell.
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
These are the bells. So they're not little cowbells.
A Blue Oyster Cult for us. So
So you imagine they gave them out to the first 6,000 people. So 6,000 cowbells.
Nice. Exactly.
Got a little loud.
Everyone in chat's got cowbell emotes and got to have more cowbell. So everyone in chat's agreeing with you. So
Right.
So yeah, that's awesome. And yeah,
And LaPierre pretty much picked up right where he left off.
yeah.
Uh, so that was fun to watch. McElrath was getting in, all the guys that came down. And I will tell you, Miro looked much more comfortable back in Hershey. I don't know who I was talking to. May have been you, Gil, may have been the last podcast. It's probably good that Miro stays in Hershey a little longer. I think he came up just a little bit too early.
It was tough though, right?
Um,
I kind of
but we
hate
needed the body. So
I know,
at
but
the time,
it was so close. Like, when he did so well in those first couple of games, and it
yeah.
just sucks because we basically burnt it out by just a couple of ones. Gil, do you think that was still the right call to burn that entry level year?
To get him the experience at the pro level, yeah. But yeah, I think I would not be surprised if he spends anywhere from a quarter to half the season in Hershey again this
Mhm.
coming year. But you
Yeah.
see how he did when he first got called up. I'm not quite sure he was ready for what the NHL level playoffs were going to throw at him.
Right.
But I mean, you see what he did this year during the regular season, but he just couldn't sustain it. So, like C4 said, he's going to need more time down in Hershey, just kind of solidify his game. But it won't be much longer before he's more of a regular.
No, he looked a lot more comfortable down in Hershey, um, playing at that level. I mean, not that he didn't look comfortable. Like you said, during the regular season, it's a different game than the playoffs. NHL playoffs are very intense. And not that the Calder Cup playoffs aren't, but it's still a different level of hockey.
Yeah.
So,
It's been a really I'm just so excited that 7 of these players get to play in both playoffs
I
potentially.
know.
I think that that's a really cool experience for those, that not many franchises get to have at the level, because they got to play a really high level team to see what that's like, and then they get to
Yeah.
come here and use that experience, against, much lower level, talent. So
And
yeah.
the coolest part is that Hershey had the depth to cover while these guys were up with us, that they could still be in this position where they can potentially repeat the Calder Cup. So that just shows the depth of our farm system right now and what.
I think you make a great point, because I want to talk to Gil about this, because a lot of people are like, well, what's happening with the rebuild? I was like, the rebuild's happening. I don't, it's in front of our eyes. I don't know why, like, people are like, why are we delaying the rebuild? I'm like, no,
It's
it,
Or not.
people not paying attention, not knowing what's happening right in front of them that are
Mhm.
saying that. It,
yeah,
it, it is
Yeah.
it is going on. We are playing the younger guys. Play the younger guys. We need to get younger. It's happening. It's happened already.
Let's see, LaPierre, Iorio when he was healthy, Sandine, uh,
yeah, we even had Matt.
McMichael,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all those guys.
I have a question. Who's the
Absolutely.
current captain in Hershey? Is it McElrath
Yes.
it
Yeah.
is? Okay. So that's wild that, like, the captain was called up to the Caps, and like, how, but they were able to still keep it going, like, because I feel like that would, like, could potentially mess with chemistry, right? Because he's like your team leader, it's just an interesting dynamic, for the Bears for sure. But all right, but so C4, so they were able to win both games, and I believe
Mhm.
it's a best of 5 series, right?
Yes. So we win one more.
So the next 2 are going to be on the road, and they're coming up pretty soon, I think.
Yeah. And
Uh,
then the next round, assuming they make it to the next round, which there isn't any reason they shouldn't, because Lehigh Valley is not that good. Their goalie is Philadelphia draftee Peterson. And
right.
he's a big boy, but he honestly, I don't think he looked all that good, in my opinion. Um, the first night he looked stronger than he did on Saturday. I mean, I didn't watch the whole game on Saturday. I watched the highlights later. Actually, we actually had AHL TV on my phone, so we were kind of watching that and kind of watching the soccer game and then looking down at that and watching the soccer game, looking down at so but yeah, we were yeah, I'm not sure Peterson's got it
Yeah.
And they're, they have some big boys on Lehigh Valley though.
I just
But
think it's funny that we
I
could
think,
potentially eliminate both the Flyers and their minor league teams. So,
yes, exactly.
so I think
That
that
would
would be
be freaking
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know who we would play next.
Yeah. I don't really. I'm happy for our team. I follow our team,
Um,
but I don't really follow the rest of the league very closely. So,
well, I know, we sort of half follow the Amherst up in Rochester because one of Marcus's friends he's also a kid, Jared. You've talked to him a few times, Gil.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's an Amherst fan, so we kind of half follow them, and so we were actually rooting for the Crunch, who and actually both their games have gone into overtime. The Crunch won the first one, the Amherst won the next one, so
Yeah.
that series is going to be interesting to watch as well.
How about
So,
game 2?
yeah,
Ethan friggin' Frank. Ethan
I
Frank.
know. I
Keep your
love
eye on this
him.
kid. Gotta love Frank.
He'll be up.
He
I
was
think he'll
hot.
be up the latter part of next season.
Well, he was a hot dog that game for sure. And
Hmm.
I mean, he really proved that he's no weenie with his 2 goals. He put especially that second goal, he put every bit of mustard on that one.
Yeah, he did.
But
Gil,
yeah.
Gil catch all of these in late. I appreciate that. The
Well, you know me, I relish all these conversations we have.
There we go.
good. You can tell that Anna somewhere is really happy that she's on summer break.
Yeah, exactly.
The but so Gil, you did have your final episode of the Power Play Point podcast with Anna. Are you still going to do other shows throughout the summer, catch up and stuff like that, or are you done for a little bit?
So the plan is we put out the call to for anyone, but especially our loyal listeners who haven't had a chance to come on the show and have their say about the team. We love to involve the fans as much as we can. That unfortunately didn't happen as much as we would have liked this season. So we put out that call, and there's at least a couple of them that said, okay, yeah, I want to give my take, and already recorded one of those sessions. Hope to record another one with someone else later on this week. So that'll be kind of a companion episode to this last one. So pretty much unless something big breaks as far as an off-season news or an acquisition, something, that's pretty much going to be it for us. We usually go on a summer hiatus this year. I will be making appearances, here, of course, whenever my presence is requested. And anywhere there's Caps hockey talk, but there's our friend Marcus, who has his own podcast, The Croom's Off the Chain. His specialty is kind of the developing players and especially the draft. So he will have an episode focused solely on that. So that he's going to have when that comes out, I'm probably going to be guesting on that one to give my take. We've had our eyes on a few prospects that would be a perfect fit for the Caps. So we'll see how that round one shakes out at least. So
Right.
that's my plans at least for the next month or so anyway.
Yeah,
Nice,
and we're
yeah.
gonna have our season wrap up, I think, Tuesday night,
Oh,
which is
cool.
yeah, we recorded and it's up on Spotify. I think tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow night. I think tomorrow or Wednesday we're doing our
Yeah, I've been
season
really.
wrap up, and then we'll have the draft. We'll probably talk. Well, we might do. Well, depending on the Bears, we might do some Bears random ones during the playoffs with the Bears, but.
Yeah, I apologize to our audio listeners. I've been super late on getting our stuff up, but I figure most people have been watching the Facebook Lives or on Twitch or on YouTube, so people have an opportunity to catch it for sure. But definitely catch those places first, and then I will release the audio podcast. I've been doing like right before the next one, and then be like, actually, stay tuned. Later tonight, you have X. Using it as like an ad for it. It'd be interesting to see if anyone comes through that way. But yeah, so last week's was just posted. I haven't even posted on our website yet. I usually do have the archive, but if you are in the videos, you can definitely check out my YouTube channel as well. But I'll definitely have you guys back on next week to continue the playoff conversation and the Hershey
Sure.
update. We'll I don't think we'll have any New Yorker or Carolina fans next week because they will be playing, but we can have a live looking into that game for sure, and give our take in that one. But yeah, with that, I think I'm going to let Gil go, and then I'm going to actually have C4 talk soccer with me, which is
Gotta switch hats.
Gil, I assume you didn't watch the DC United game because you're welcome to stay if you have anything to say on it.
I hardly ever catch their games, if ever. I'm more into the Washington Spirit, to be honest. When it comes to soccer, I think they have a very exciting team. But no, I don't usually catch the United as much.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have a conversation with C4, and we're going to bring in DC's People's Champ as well, and get his take on them in addition. And but Gil, thank you again. You've been a big part of these last 3 years on Twitch. You've seen our entire Twitch journey, and been a member of our team since even before that. But thank you so much for being such a big part of this show over this last couple of years.
Thanks for having me, and
Yeah.
keep it going. 3 years, that's great. Hopefully, Twitch becomes a lot bigger. Certainly, more people friendly. I think it going forward. So yeah, hopefully you're able to keep that going.
Yeah, it's so fun that we can find
Yeah.
other sports fans from other teams through, Twitch, and have them on, and have lively debates and conversations with them, because I think it does I love covering the hockey from the Caps perspective, but I think it's also important that we hear from other sports fans as well. And I think that even in the first season we used to have people from other teams come on, and I think that's such an important thing, not to just have like the homer perspective as well. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it, and Eddie, for coming on, because it's not easy to come on a rival teams podcast. And so I appreciate them for being good sports and talking about the team that they love. But Gil, we'll have you back next week, and we'll continue the conversation about the playoffs.
Absolutely, pleasure. Thanks a lot. Good night, guys.
All right. Good night, Gil. See you later.
Yep. Bye.
All right, and with that.